Today is Tuesday, August 2nd. I'm Joe Fortin, and this is Sydney Richardson. And we're just going to make kind of a casual video today, talking about the so-called twin flame dynamic. As you may know, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, this has been a topic that I've spoken on at length for many years. And we want to share a little bit about our experience with this. And as I've stated the last few times I've come on here and made videos in the last couple of live streams, like I'm going to be making a lot of like detailed videos going into the nuances of the dynamic from my perspective. I have been someone who's researched this for many years, and you know, there's a lot of like bad information being distributed by, you know, what I would call like the new age twin flame community. There is a lot of preconceived notions and misconceptions that many have. I still get asked a lot of questions on a regular basis, coming from frameworks which I find to be like self-limiting and harmful. You know, like one of the things that happens is like people very often get into toxic dynamics, and because they get convinced somebody's their twin flame, like they'll just put up with things that are like really not okay. And yeah, so we just want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've experienced and noticed like in our past year and a half together.
Yep.
And actually one of the things that we're going to talk about a lot today is like the mirroring that occurs. Now, it's interesting because I would say probably after I found the chelantic science information, really, any of the videos that I've made on these topics after finding that information, which is probably like 2.5 years ago, I'm pretty sure if I went back and reviewed everything that I've said, like it's pretty on point with what I believe and where I'm at now in terms of the information. And one of the things that I had described was the idea that your true twin flame would be both a perfect mirror and like an inverse mirror simultaneously. And that has proven itself quite aptly in our dynamic. The two of us are either identical or polar opposites with literally everything we've ever looked at.
No in between.
Yeah, like a good example is the idea of speaking and communication, right? So I'm someone who really rants a lot. I'm very outwardly expressive. I'm a soul for Constitution, Heilkunst. Sydney is a silica, which is literally the polar opposite. And that's the same with like everything we look at. Like we look at like our astrological charts, just like there's a lot of examples.
The way we process information, the way we handle certain emotions or certain experiences.
Sydney was just making a list of a couple of things, and one of the things that we were looking at, and the thing about talking about next is that there have been times when we've both oscillated, but whenever we oscillate, we're at the other end of the spectrum. So with this particular thing, we were talking about shame in regards to presenting ourselves on here, right? We're both people who are processing and are dealing with, you know, shame that we've accumulated over the years. And for me, one of the ways that I dealt with that initially in making videos was to kind of explode outwardly and just be like, here I am. And like, if some of you watched the earlier content, you might remember that like I was just like, I went into this mode where I was just like, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, and if you don't like it, I don't care, don't watch my content. And I was like almost angry about it, right? And I had to swing the pendulum really far in that direction, not for anyone else but for me, right? To internally move past the blocks that I had to become like almost hyper aggressive in that way to move past my internal fear and my internal reservations and my internal judgment, right? The way that Sydney has kind of done that is basically the opposite. And like, how would you describe the way that like this is manifested for you?
Well, in regards to the emotion of shame, my subconscious reaction is to retreat, to hide, to avoid confrontation associated with said shame, which again, polar opposite between, or polar opposite of exploding outwards. So for me, it would be to retreat inwards. Um, but yeah.
I'm also the type of person who, like, if I have a conflict with someone, I want to go face that person immediately. Like, I want to go deal with it right now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to hold it in. I really can't hold it in. I can't hold in or hide my emotions, like, whatsoever. And it really bothers me if I have conflict with somebody and there's no ability to communicate to resolve that. I'm someone who will spend hours communicating with someone else in order to resolve the conflict, let them know how I feel, process how they feel, understand their perspective and point of view, tell them mine. And there's a lot of situations in which that's not possible. Like, the other person's just not open to hearing what you have to say, or they like don't care how you feel. They just have like their perspective on things. They've made assumptions about why they think you did certain things, or why they think that you were the way that you were, or whatever. And there's like no talking to them after that. It's like talking to a brick wall. And with those types of people, I might revert to the other mode, which is to kind of withdraw and, hide from it. And that's only because like there's just no recourse there, right? So there is a certain dynamic in which I would do the same thing, but only if I tried the first thing first and had it not work. But
yeah, and when it comes to confrontation, again, opposite. I like to retreat, process all of the angles on said issue, both from mine and the other person's. A lot of times I just like to feel through it, think through it until I feel some sort of peace with it, and then usually I can kind of move on from there. Coming to some place of inner forgiveness. So the theme of the Ho'oponopono prayer, and seeing things from the higher perspective of how we're all the same energy, the same being, and so on and so forth down that rabbit hole. But yeah, and then recently looking into all of this from the, bird's eye perspective, is seeing how that pattern began. And it was from dealing with the type of people that it feels like you're talking to a brick wall, which Joe was just discussing about why would there be, like, it doesn't seem like there's a good reason at all to go waste your energy arguing your point of said confrontation if it's not going to be heard, it's not going to be received, so why bother?
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have anything to say on that?
I think that's a topic that we can definitely explore more in depth in another video. What was coming to mind for me was like just the way that you and I are different in the way that we deal with like conflicts with each other. So like with me, if we're having any type of like issue come up or anything, I want to be like in her presence. I want to talk to her. I want to talk it all out. I want to talk until like, the energy peaks in a conflict, and then I want to be there with each other and talk until that energy comes back down and everything's resolved.
And I like to process everything on my own, because both of us are so open and receptive and affected by environmental energy, including others. Picking up on both at the same time often gets really overwhelming for me. So I like to process my own first and then kind of come back to a place when I feel a little bit more balanced. Of course, that takes more time to get completely balanced, but enough to be able to articulate and discuss whatever it may be.
Right. And then in terms of like, I really want to, until we get to the end of this topic, try to focus on the mirroring aspect until maybe we move on to something else. But we looked at so many different things. We would also mirror each other. Well, one of the things that we did, we actually were just trying to record a video out in the field, but like there was so many mosquitoes that it was really just distracting us, and it wasn't really possible to do it. So we need to go get some like good bug spray to be able to do that, because we want to make some like nature hiking type videos and stuff like that. But one of the things that happened during the video was we both blurted out the same thing, and like that happens multiple times a day, or just like say the exact same thing, or we finish each other's sentences, or you know, Sydney will think something like, oh, I'd like to have some orange juice, and I'll just like happen to pour her a glass of orange juice. Like it happens many times throughout the day, and this has been from day one. There were a million things in the beginning, especially where I'd never met anybody else who had studied so many of the things that I had studied. Like I would talk to Sydney about the different like videos that I watched, and the different people that I'd watched, like Bruce Lipton, like even some of the ones that just surprised me was like Jocko Willink and David Goggins. Like Sydney had like watched those guys. I think I introduced you to Elliot Hulse, and Sydney really like was into bioenergetics and that type of thing. Yeah, and it's just like I'd never met anybody else that could speak the language of like bioenergetics.
Alexander Lowen.
Right, except for my friend Laura. My friend the Heilkünstler Laura, not the Heilkünstler Laura. I have the Lauras. They call them the Lauras, and it's my friend Laura who introduced me to Laura Plord, who is my Heilkünstler, and my friend Laura also went to school for Heilkunst, and she's the one, so she's like my good friend. We just, Sydney just met her for the first time the other day. But apart from Laura, like there was nobody in my immediate environment that I'd ever talked to that knew about like any of these topics.
Yeah, we're talking about the Schumann resonance, and
yeah,
you introduced me to Cathara, and all of that.
The Kinetic Science material, Ashiana Dean's material, Lisa Renee's material on ascensionglossary.com. I'll just keep dropping these references. Chaos Library on BitChute. Totally check that out. It's basically a ton of like Ashiana Dean's workshops, which we have not as much recently, but we've spent a lot of hours watching those and just kind of nerding out on them and passively absorbing the information. I went through a period of time where I wasn't able to really retain as much like last year, but I think that was also sort of like something internal in me kind of hitting the brakes on the research. But anyway, in terms of the mirroring, so you've got the communication aspect, the way we handle like shame and conflict. What else have you written down in your notebook? It's just so many things.
And the next one was, well, some of them ended up in my notes on my phone, others in my journal, but
Oh, yeah, so one of the things that
problems
we were talking about right before we turned on the camera was the fact that, well, for me, I had very, very obvious addiction issues. Like, it was not something that I could ever hide. I've never been able to put on a mask and hide who I am in any way whatsoever. Very much what you see is what you get. I'm that way on my channel. I've always been that way. And I actually kind of have, I guess, prided myself on being that way. Because I've just got like a real problem with people who come onto platforms like this and present themselves like, you know, with some kind of image of perfection, and like the new agey types where like, you know, they present themselves as so, you know, enlightened and da-da-da-da-da, and then you meet them and behind closed doors, like they're just as fucked up and flawed as everybody else. And you know, so I don't like that. I'm more of a shoot from the hip type of guy. You know, I'm gonna come on here, and you know, originally I was coming on here and I was like drinking and like smoking cigarettes in my videos and like, you know, just kind of being a jackass. But I did that on purpose because I wanted people to like see the real me at that point. And this is the real me now. Like, this is really who I am. Like, this is really where I'm at. Like, I'm really actually have evolved, like, since then. By no means am I perfect. I've come a long way. That's the whole point, though, is I want you guys to be able to vibe and resonate and identify with the real me and my real story and, like, who I actually am authentically. And I'm not here to, like, blow smoke up anybody's ass or tell you that, you know, I'm going to cure all of your ails in 30 days. Just buy the, you know, the $59.95 package, you know. It's like, and one of the things I will be talking about is the fact that, like, everything that I talk about and advocate requires time, effort, determination, consistency, and it is not an overnight process. If you're looking for something to just magically make all of your woes go away, you need to go somewhere else. And that's literally how I'm going to say it to you. And that's how I will say it to you to your face. Because, I worked my ass off for years to get where I am right now, and I'm not yet, quote unquote, where I want to be, but I've come a long way. So let's see. Like I said, everything that we looked at, one of the things that we talked about in the live stream last week was the fact that our families like mirror each other.
We both have a younger sister.
Yeah, we both have a younger sister. Like her mother is a lot like my father, and vice versa. Her dad's like my mom. When we look at the timeline of like what happened in childhood, so we both kind of started in the same place, right? We came from like fairly like well-off families. We both went to private school. And I was basically slated to be a D1 hockey player. Like everybody thought I was going to be a D1 hockey player. And then around the age 15 for me, I went like totally the other direction. And I started getting involved with, basically it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, like alcohol, women, and like that whole scene. And I kind of like started hanging around with like, I guess you could call it, the delinquents, man. I started hanging around with like, the people that were doing that type of stuff.
And I went the other direction from that time.
And it was weird because, like, I still was, like, even through college, I was kind of trying to grab on to where she was because she played D1 sports and, like, did that whole thing. And my sister got a full ride to UVM and she played D1 hockey. And, like, I had a lot of, like, envy because, my parents were, like, in the stands. Like, we were going to my sister's hockey games and stuff. And, like, there were times when I would go to my sister's hockey games and I would cry. Actually, when I think of the song Machine Head by Bush, that was the warm-up song for my sister's hockey team. I'm still getting chills thinking about it. I would be in the stands and I would be like, man, I wish that was me out there, and I wasn't able to really release, like, the loss of my identity until I was, like, 27 or 28 years old when I figured out, like, why I felt so horrible about myself. And it was because my entire identity was shaped around being a D1 hockey player and potentially being an NHL hockey player, and I had failed, right? And I had, like, in from my point of view and perspective, I had failed in my father's eyes, which for any young man is like, it's devastating, And since then, I've come around and, like, I've found my actual true purpose, and, like, my dad is proud of me, which every young man wants. I don't care if you're on a spiritual path or not. Like, everybody wants their dad to be proud of them. Let's just call a spade here. It is something that feels good. I'm not going to pretend like I'm so enlightened that I wouldn't stoop that low as to want my father's, recognition. It is, I'm
it's
still
part
someone
of our
who
mammalian brain, as in mammal brain.
Yeah, and we could go into the aspects of, like, what's that book you have that talks about dopamine, serotonin, the happy brain chemicals?
Yeah, endorphins, oxytocin.
Isn't it like something like that?
It's like something about happy brain.
Yeah.
Happy brain's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The other words, I'm not sure.
We'll try to...
Maybe it's just chemicals of a happy brain, but it teaches you about the 4 major happy neurochemicals, which we just listed. Endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine.
Right.
It tells you the purpose of all of them, and from the perspective of survival of your body, as well as in your tribe or in a culture.
And I want to say it was I want to say it was serotonin that was involved with, like, your status sort of in the tribe.
I wrote this down 2 days ago. Or 3 days ago.
Synchronicity. But your status in the tribe and how, like, being feeling like a part of that and feeling respected by your peers actually increases certain
oxytocin
neurotransmitter levels, right? And
feeling safe, secure, and belong.
Yeah.
Come on, I'll find
those
it.
of us who have been the black sheep for a lot of our lives and can have a tendency to, like, not have that system working well, and that has, effects on all the other systems, right?
I'll find it. One second. Oh, it's right here.
Okay.
All right, so dopamine is the reward chemical. So For example, this type of energy releases right as you're about to receive that reward, or you know that a goal is achievable. So the example that went along with this one is if a monkey sees a banana at the top of the tree, the dopamine will fire to give him the energy to go and get it because it's in reach, it's close, it's doable. And then when the need is actually met, the serotonin is released, and serotonin can play a role not only in feeling successful, but also social assertion and things associated with winning.
You want to be the top lobster,
yeah,
says Jordan Peterson.
And then the other two, I'll just say briefly. Oxytocin is the cuddle hormone. It releases when the mother first makes contact with her baby after birth.
Co-regulation.
Yep, that's a whole other topic to get into. And the importance of nervous system regulation throughout the lifetime, and how a big part of that can be traced back to, the degree in which you were able to co-regulate as an infant.
Breastfeed your babies.
It is important, yeah. So yes, oxytocin releases when you feel a sense of trust or feel safe with someone, or I guess something, but anyways. And then the last is the endorphins, which actually activates only when we're in pain, and it can last up to 15 minutes, so it's a short burst. But it's a survival hormone that helps to, again, mask the pain long enough to get you out of a situation. This could tie into the fight or flight and other hormones such as adrenaline, norepinephrine, that type of thing. But we'll save that conversation for another time.
Yeah, all good information to know. I just had like a random really funny thought, and I kind of want to share it.
Okay.
So what is it that happens when like a duckling is born and it's imprinting?
Imprinting.
So
yeah.
what would happen is
that's from the mirror neurons.
Yeah. So what would happen if like you had a duckling that like imprinted onto a rock? Like you just like put the duckling in like a white room with a rock.
I'm sure it would happen.
Yeah. So would it be like the duckling would just be like in love with the rock its whole life? Would the duckling just like seek out rocks and
Probably.
just make it would just like make it happy?
Or it attached to that one rock only, and then if you move the rock, it would just follow when you moved it.
Like, did that happen to you? You were handed a lot of rocks when you were little. Sydney loves rocks. It's one of her favorite things. So anyway, back to the mirroring. Kind of went off a little tangent there. Again, this is kind of a casual chat. We are just trying to connect with you guys, and that's why we're doing the live streams. Every Friday, 1 p.m. EST, we're going to be doing a live stream. And shout out to Tess from Sweden. Yeah, it's not Norway, it's Sweden. We don't like those Norwegians.
Why not?
They got a rivalry thing going on. I'm just trying to be, in solidarity. But shout out to Tess. Tess asked that we try to like post something like on Instagram or some other platform so that you guys would know when we'd be doing the live stream. So we'll try to do that if we are going to make something outside of that schedule. But I think people will get used to the Friday 1 p.m. EST thing. I think there is a way that I can schedule the live like a couple of days beforehand so that it's set up and ready to go. But there is an email list on my website, and I will try to utilize that so that we update you guys on anything new. Also, we have an Instagram, and it is Sovereign Synergy 1111. So we can make posts on there as well, and we will do our best to do that.
We can.
We started all this stuff. We got it fired up. The area, we had a lot of hurdles to overcome in the last 6 months, and we have finally broken out of whatever energy that was. And, both on a physical level, on an emotional and mental level, and on a spiritual level, like we have passed whatever test we were supposed to, and like we're here now. So this is all happening now. I had a client session the other day. I hadn't had a client session in a long time. It went really well, and was really happy about that. And so, again, open for business. I'm going to be modifying the website, joefortincoaching.com, to reflect kind of like what we're currently doing. There will be options on there, both to work with myself and Sydney and us together, if any of you would like to do that. Right now, if anybody wants a session, please email me first. Please don't just go in and schedule something without talking to me first, because I still need to go into the back end of the website and make some modifications in terms of scheduling and add Sydney in there as someone that you can work with, so that it'll sync with like her calendar and it'll let us know how, everything needs to integrate properly. So right now, just shoot us an email and then you can go ahead and book a session if you'd like. So back to the mirroring. I want to continue exploring this topic of mirroring. I'm sorry. I'm getting bit. Now.
There's a bug right above your head.
Yeah, we got some organic bug spray, and I'm sad to say it does not work as well as the regular stuff. But maybe we can find some more.
Did I get it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. No problem.
So I'm going to talk about this a little bit from my point of view. One of the things that's been going on for me, and that is actually something that's known within certain holistic healing circles, Heilkunst, the training program that I'm going to be going into, is for sequential therapy. And there is actually a law that was first observed by a French doctor, and it has to do with the way that the energies come up in order for healing to occur. And it comes up in reverse chronological order, which is why when you do a Heilkunst timeline, when you first go in for your first appointment, they have you write a timeline from birth until present day, and you tell them every trauma that you've been through. I won't go through all the details as to what all that entails, but
it would be a lot.
You then address it in reverse chronological order. The thing about this is that when you're in a healing process, what tends to occur is that things come up in reverse chronological order.
Layers.
I've really been noticing in my life, and right now is a perfect example of it, it's almost like my life has been running backwards. So I've been going through a lot of the same exact things that I went through before in the reverse order, and what's happening is that as it comes around, the way that I'm healing it is that I'm reacting to the situation differently, and I'm maturing, right? And it's almost like what I'm seeing is that like we go into sort of like during our lifetime, like we go into sort of this negative energy. And I was talking to my client the other day about this. He actually asked some really good questions. He was kind of looking at it like a scale, and he was like, what happens when you get down sort of into the shadow energy and you feel stuck there? Like, how do you get out? Well, some of this is going to occur naturally, but I feel like sometimes what happens is almost like you incur this energetic debt. And then what happens is the situations and the energies come back around, and you get an opportunity to bring yourself up that ladder. Certain things are going to be more aptly dealt with at certain times. And for me, I think that a lot of what I'm addressing is the templating that I essentially took on during my teenage years. And the funny thing about this is that I'm working at my parents' auto shop right now, part-time, as well as doing this. And I'm working with the same two guys that were working there when I was 16 years old. One of the guys has been there, and I've known him since I was like 11. The other guy, for whatever reason, got hired back like within the last 6 months or a year. So it's me and my two buddies that I've known since high school. And it's like all the characters that were in the play when I took that dive at 15 and sort of went down are all here again, and I'm getting an opportunity to rectify all of these situations with all of these different people. And I literally got a text from, we use an app called Serious Joy. It's like an astrology website.
Witecki.
Yep. Christopher Witecki, Mr. Witecki. And I got a text at work
I wonder what
the other
says.
day. And what did it say? It's important to add love and avoid anger in all your ego, character, and behavior. You are developing a new response. Avoid old conflicts and ego battles. And it's so weird because like I'm literally seeing all of these things come up. I'm working with my sister, right? I'm working with my dad, and it's like I'm getting an opportunity to look at all of these situations and all of these dynamics again, but this time armed with all of the knowledge that I've built up over, the last 7 or 8 years, and also with a bit more, a lot more actually, emotional maturity, and being able to really take a step back and keep myself centered and kind of in that 0 point. And it's not like I'm able to keep myself centered at all times, but I'm able to practice and I'm able to reflect and I'm able to look at these things and the dynamics and the interplays with all the energy and how this all ties in with all the things that I've talked about on my channel for the last 5 years. So it's really, really interesting.
And you have a teammate.
And I have a teammate. Team Sovereign Synergy, Sasquatch and She-Squatch at your service. So anyway, this is all very, very interesting. I'm at the point with my Hawkins timeline, which reflects about 8 years ago. So that's how far I've made it into the treatment protocol. It's been 3 or 4 years since I started. My personal progression with the protocol has been probably a lot slower than most people, just because I have a lot more trauma than the average person, and because in the beginning, especially before I did some of the miasm work, the packets and addressing certain emotional energies was so hard and like so heavy for me that I had to take breaks. Like, it was really a lot. Now I'm getting to a point where I can kind of sail through a lot of the packets a little bit more easily, and so
But I'm not.
Yeah, my progress is getting faster and faster. Sydney is also now
Just recently.
doing the Halkins protocol. She did it for a little while, like 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and then took a little break, and now she's back doing it again too.
It's no joke.
I personally noticed huge improvement in Sydney in the first couple of appointments with the first. I think she did like 4 or 6 packets.
I think it was just 3.
It was only 3.
I've done 4 now. I just did 1.
Yeah.
It was just 1 paper. Oh, it was 2 papers in each. Wait, maybe it was 4. I don't know. It's been a few.
So yeah, that's something that we're both engaging in, and that I will definitely be making videos on. I'm assuming that Sid will probably make some as well. I like making the video logs because I feel like it helps really demonstrate the efficacy of what I'm doing. And
we can talk about, sorry to interrupt you, but we can talk about how our Hellkunst things have also been mirrored in some ways.
Yeah, so there's one thing that I'm not quite sure about, because every aspect of literally everything we look at has been mirrored. I have wondered and postulated that perhaps when I take a packet, because I'm clearing the energy within myself, that is also reflected in Sydney. And I think that it's true, but I'm not sure exactly how it's true, because it might be an inverse mirror. It may be that if I am harboring some sort of anger about something that happened in my past, and Sydney was basically manifesting and pushing that button for me, if I clear the anger, all of a sudden the reflection changes and the behavior changes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that she healed anything. It means that she just stops engaging in whatever behavior it is, or the situation somehow resolves itself, right? So I think there's a lot of nuance to how this occurs, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in the mirroring. Whatever's going on within us is going to be reflected by the other, right? And
that applies to all relationships, right?
It does. It's just that the degree of reflection is different depending on. I mean, you could look at the astrological component. You could look at the epigenetic, morphogenetic component. You could look at the archetypal components. you can look at the ancestral components in terms of like how does the person fit into, like if they're a family member, you know, how are they relating to you, right? So there's a lot of different nuances and components here, not all of which are necessarily able to be fully parsed out, discerned, categorized, labeled, and like, you know, chopped apart by the left brain, at least not by me at this point. You know, this is part of what I guess science is like looking at all of these things and looking at the differences, looking at the nuances, and then being able to label and categorize certain energies, which I think is what people have tried to do with the twin flame topic in general, right? Like that's why they've got so many different labels for like shadow twin, catalyst twin, twin ray, twin souls, soul flames, you know, so blah 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 blah, right? All of which are like totally not important to me, other than the fact that I think you do need to like be able to identify the negative iterations of those, which, you know, if you need to identify those, I've got some pretty good old videos that you can watch that show that energy pretty well. So yeah, I mean, you know, when I was in that energy, I had no idea what was going on. I was so confused, like I didn't understand like the idea of like really like what dark occultists were, like what satanics were, what luciferics were, like what all these things were at the time. But I was taught very abruptly what all of that was, and I kind of dipped into that energy a little bit for a while. The good thing for me is that like I mostly like researched it. I was reading about it. I didn't really do any of it, you know, so I didn't screw myself. Yeah. But yeah, it was a interesting and volatile and, you know, dangerous time in my life. And, you know, at the time I was really like kind of upset that like people weren't watching the channel and like people like were leaving, and like I had a bunch of friends leave and stuff like that. But all of them have come back, and like we've all talked except for one. She left a comment on the channel. Don't worry, I'm gonna say hi. You know who you are. But yeah, you know, and that was actually appropriate for all of them to do that at the time, because I really was not in a good place, and like I really was like just sort of like what's the term that I'm looking for? I was interfacing with certain energies that were not good, and you know, I was actually being a little bit of a conduit for some of those energies, and I didn't see it at the time. I do now, but that was a big part of my journey. I learned so much from that. That's part of why I'm able to help with these things now, and I'm able to see those things very readily in people, and I wouldn't otherwise be able to do that. I also have a lot of experience with cults. Seem to be still attracting some cult-like individuals. I don't know. It just seems to be my lot. For whatever reason, I must be here to be some kind of like, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate. But I am here to deal with cults for some reason. Like, they love me. I don't know what it is, but they really love me. I mean, it feels nice to be wanted. It really does.
You know I want you.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the cults.
Oh,
They
right.
want me. So anyway, have a lot of experience with that. I'm able to identify stuff about that really quickly. Like the, you know, just inherent narcissism of the leaders of such hierarchical structures, you know. The weird part also is that I seem to have a lot in common with them. So it, you know, like for example, like Mr. L. Ron Hubbard, like I was like reading about this dude and I'm like, I think I'm a lot like this guy. I need to be careful with myself. I'm a dangerous man. Like, well, that's the thing though, is I'm able to see these things now and I'm like, okay, I know what not to do. Don't be like that guy.
There you
Very
go.
cool. And I saw a recent reflection who I will not identify, who gave me also a lot to not emulate. Like I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna be like that dude. Like not cool. Yeah. It is a lot. So anyway, you know, I think we'll wrap it up for now. It's a 40-minute video. We'll make some more bullet points. It's hard to like think of these things off the top of my head. And that's kind of how I roll.
I was about to
Sydney,
say, I thought that's what you do.
that is one last mirroring thing.
Oh yeah.
That is,
let's
I
conclude
actually
on
did
that.
it without trying to do it, but I'm someone who just flies by the seat of my pants. I don't really have a plan for anything. There has never been a plan from day one, kids. Like, there just hasn't. And I just turn on the camera and go. And she likes
to have an outline of some kind, or at least just a general box of relevancy for where we're going to be in conversation on the recording.
I just allow it to unfold.
Because if I go with the flow, I flow here and then way over there and then a mile that direction and then I
do that a little bit
out
too.
Of the non-existent box of relevancy.
I do that a little bit too. I mean, I just did it, but I'm kind of okay with it.
But you bring it back. I just keep going.
Let's circle back.
So I need to have that place in my mind that we're coming back to. Because if I don't, then like I said, I'll be 5 miles that way.
You guys know the circle back lady? You know what I'm talking about. I know some of you get it.
What?
The circle back chick, like from the White House press.
Shaded this.
The PR, the redheaded PR chick from the White House. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks better from afar. See the shading.
Yeah. All right.
It's either a bubble or a sphere.
Sydney has accomplished a sphere in the last 40 minutes.
It's got to be this way because the light's coming from this way.
Mm.
And so that's why the dark side's over here.
So yeah, as those of you who've watched my channel know, I do like to keep things light. I like to have fun. I do want to maintain some level of professionalism as best as I can, but
we're still humans.
I am a human, and I don't know. I just can't be serious all the time. It's too rigid for me. I'm not really a stiff in a suit. I don't like the noose being around my neck. I had to wear a shirt and tie to school when I was a kid, and I was just like, I hate this. So what I would do is I would get like tie-dye ties and like Looney Tunes ties, and I'd wear like tie-dyed collar shirts and stuff like that. It was great. I was in the rules. I was within the parameters that they set.
There's another mirror. We both went through a tie-dye phase of
Yeah.
being obsessed with only wearing tie-dye.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that we've talked about, and there's just so many things. In the beginning, there were so many things that I said to her so many times, like, we should be writing this down. We should be journaling this because, like, this is the stuff people need to see. Like, how do you know it's your real twin flame? Well, if you had what happened to me happen to you, you'd know, because it's like totally undeniable. Like this whole level of like synchronicity and like just absolutely mind-blowing like things that I was experiencing and seeing, like, there's nothing in my life that's come even close to it. Like, not anywhere near. Not not to mention the fact that like the energetic peak that we went through in the beginning, like the so-called bubble love phase, was like crazy. It was like we got blasted off into space for like a couple of months. My whole body felt like jello.
And then we crashed.
But we're back. We did. We went through the typical like bubble love 2 to 3 month thing, and then all hell broke loose. And then, we went through like a few months of like that, and then coming back together and like dealing with like the ripples of the energy for a few months. And then like we finally like got smoothed out like probably like 6 months ago. And then like after that, it was kind of like rest and recovery until now, and just sort of like preparation for now. And now we're at the point where we're like in the groove, on the mission. I thought of something the other day that I thought was like a cool metaphor, and I was driving down the road, and I was like, sometimes you got to hit a bump in the road to get out of the rut.
As in,
like, sometimes you got to hit a bump in the road to get out of the rut that you're in. So people get into ruts where they're like,
can't you go around it?
So if you're in a rut, right? Being in a rut metaphorically means like I'm stuck in a rut. I keep doing this thing and like I'm not doing well, and I keep doing it over and over and over again, and every day is the same, and like I can't seem to pull myself out of this depression or this addiction or this toxic pattern or this place that I'm living in. But then you hit a bump in the road, and a bump in the road would be like something bad happening or like something shaking things up. And it looks like a negative thing at the time, but it like forces you to react to life, and it forces you to make a bunch of changes like all at once, which actually pull you up out of that rut and into a better place, even though like it seemed like a negative thing at the time, you know. So I just thought that was like a cool little metaphor. I'm gonna make it a thing. I'm gonna make memes that are gonna say, you know, my name at the bottom with that on it, and it's gonna become a thing in the common vernacular. I promise. This is gonna be a thing. Support me in my vision of manifestation, please. So, yeah, out of the rut and into the fire.
Wait, that wasn't the line.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. The third energy is kind of like
Wouldn't going through
fire.
the fire bring you out of the rut? Isn't that
the,
what you
the
just
thing is,
described in
the
your
Sex and the
analogy?
City episode on the TV earlier was out of the frying pan, and the natural next sentence after that is into the fire. Out of the frying pan, into the fire. It's also like chapter 2 or 3 in the Fellowship of the Ring and the Lord of the Rings series. So I think it's when they meet the trolls, which is not in the Lord of the Rings movie, which is really disappointing. They need to have trolls. Or wait, maybe it's the Hobbit. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
You're really confusing me.
I'm really happy to be here. I'm in a good energy. I'm in a good space. You know, happy that we finally got into this place. High five. Yeah, I still high five. What was I talking about before? I lost
Rocking it up. You were
Rocking
talking
it up.
about your metaphor.
I think it's a good metaphor. You know. So yeah.
If you have a little picture next to it, and maybe like a caption that describes it, you could really catch on.
Yeah. I'm a trendsetter.
Oh, uh-huh.
I don't know. I mean, I think in the Twin Flame community, I actually did come up with some ideas that, like, I think eventually trickled out and caught on. But who knows? You know.
That's wonderful.
We all collectively kind of, like, tune into the antenna of the universe and, like, pull in these ideas. So I might have thought of something at the same time that someone else thought of it, and it just sort of rippled out, you know. I do try to be a conduit for, you know, certain types of information, grounding certain types of information. And I'm going to be trying to explain some of this stuff going forward. So yeah, I think that's it for now, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks for watching, and yeah, see you at Friday 1 p.m. EST, if not sooner. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below and click the icon to your left to subscribe. New content every week about spirituality and addiction from myself, Joe Fortin. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.